This weekend's project is we're going to put a little work into this truck here. It idles real nice, and you can drive it around, but it's like overfueling. It stumbles, it stutters, it stalls out, and we've struggled adjusting the carburetor to get it to run properly. So we open it up underneath here, and this is what we're dealing with. We've got a 1-barrel Holley carburetor on there. I'm going to switch this over to a 2-barrel Carter BBD. So that means we're going to have to remove this. This is a 1-barrel, so we'll be removing the intake, the exhaust, all in one assembly along with that carburetor. I'm going to switch it over to a 2-barrel Carter BBD style. Hopefully that's going to eliminate our problems. Okay, so this is what we got on the shop bench here, and this is our intake and exhaust manifold system with our 2-barrel. And then we've got a complete unit right here, and then we've got this one here that we've kind of disassembled. It comes apart pretty easily, actually. So here's the complete unit. So you're gonna have two screws here, and then if you flip it over, you've got another 2 screws here. So that ends up being these 4, and you remove those. And that's going to be right here. So here's our 4. There's 2 there. There's 2 there. These are screwing into the bottom of here, and those long ones are screwing from the top down into there. So that removes basically our throttle plate and our throttle assembly down here. That's going to remove our bottom throttle plate from this, which is going to still be sandwiched together here. And to remove that, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws there. So here's our 4 screws for that, and then that's going to lift this off of here. And then inside here, pretty straightforward, we've got our floats, we've got our spring keeper in there, and then we've got our baffle. So this check ball and spring, that will go down a cylinder down in there, and then this smaller spring that goes into this one here, and then we have our arm that bolts onto the side here. And that whole assembly will go in here like that with 2 screws. These screws, you got to notice that there's a hole in there all the way through. So those 2 screws will go in right here. You take that off. Again, you see there's a little check ball there, and that little check ball goes in there. So that's that part. And now we're left with this, and I really haven't gone any further yet with this part here. You've got all the hardware in there that's operating our booster, our rods here, and then there was just a hose and a cover plate for there, right? There's your cover plate and a gasket. So you're going to have a tag on the side of the carburetor here, and it's going to have that 4-digit number. That one looks like it's a 6186. And you're going to use that number to identify the carburetor when you go and get your rebuild kit. So this is the rebuild kit that I got for this carburetor. Now it might not say on there, but in the ordering procedure it'll tell you all the model numbers that kit is good for. Now here's the contents of the kit here. So we get our instructions, and then we get our little box there. That'll be sealed. Once you've opened that, you can't return it. And then we've got all our gaskets in there, and then we've got some of these other sealed components here, right? So there's our needle and seat, and then we've got our booster, and we've got all these other little, we've got some check balls in this bag here, and just all the parts you might need to rebuild your carburetor. And then in the instructions here, we've got an exploded view to help you with disassembly and assembly, and then we're going to have some information on the back for adjustments up there. That's on that page. And then here's some more information here on adjustments in here. I guess now is as good a time as any to try and explain the function of the carburetor and hopefully maybe simplify it in some way. So basically all the carburetor is doing is metering your air and your fuel into the engine. I drew a picture here to try and help simplify things. So we've got the front of the carburetor here, and we've got the side of the carburetor here. So this is going to illustrate our choke plate as it is here, so it just shows the whole plate right across. And then we've got our 2 barrels coming down here, and then into the intake manifold, and then our combustion chamber with the intake valve open, and then our piston. When we're starting off, the starter is going to be turning the engine over, and then as the piston goes down, that's creating vacuum. Now at this moment, your throttle right here, your throttle plates are closed. And so what's happening is it's drawing air in, and your choke is also almost closed as well because it needs more fuel, less air for your initial startup. For example, this is where the choke setting is on this carburetor. So you can see that it's not open very much, just enough to get a little air in there. So that air is coming in through here, it comes in, and then there's going to be like a port where the air comes in from the top, because it has to be above this venturi, comes in from the top, and then below the throttle plate right here. So this might be a little easier to understand. So it comes in here, down, and underneath the throttle plate because the throttle plate is closed. The gas is introduced through the venturi, like in the venturi here, because that's where the velocity is going to be greatest. But in this case, it can't because this is closed. So there's going to be another passage that enters the gas underneath the throttle as well. So in the idle circuit, first start, you got air coming down and you got gas coming in, and it's getting dumped below the closed throttle plate. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Another example is here's the throttle plate here. So right now it's in the closed position. And now if we flip it upside down, we're going to see those little holes, and that is where the fuel is introduced. And if you see above the little hole, it looks like another hole, but that's not, that's a slot. If we open this up a little bit, so with that opened up, you see that that's a slot. That's where the air is coming in. So that air is coming in underneath this closed throttle plate here. So with that throttle plate closed, you're going to get basically a rich air fuel mixture, more fuel than air. And the way I understand it, or the way it was kind of explained to me, it's cold, right? So it's kind of like starting a fire. So you need more fuel and less air. And an example would be lighter fluid on a fire, right? You want that initial, you got to get it going, right? So lots of fuel, the fuel ignites. That's what starts the engine and starts the combustion. Once it's running, now you can meter the fuel in the air to have it basically run efficiently.